He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
Kia ora, g'day. In this week's episode of The Long Way Home with me, Bruce Hopkins, she's a bit different from the previous ones because I'm laid up. So here I am, sitting in Whangarei Hospital, accident and emergency. Just had an x-ray on my lower leg. Just swelling, my ankles swelling up pretty hugely. Dr. Mick Colleen, here we are, Whangarei Hospital. So what's happening here with the injured tramper?
Well, you injured your calf from hitting yourself with your tramping stick, and it's got all red. And because you walked on it for another 6 hours, it just hasn't healed, and now you've got an infection in the fatty tissue under the skin. So that's why it's all red from beginning of your ankle to the beginning of your knee, so almost all of your calf. It's not a serious case, and I don't think you need intravenous antibiotics, but you do need tablets, so you wouldn't really be able to, I don't believe, walk until you've rested for a good few days, maybe 4 or 5 days. The trouble with these infections is they can get worse if you continue to weight bear on them.
Right, so keep off the leg as much as possible.
Until it's half the size. We'll draw a line around it now. If the swelling gets past the line, then you need to come back and have intravenous antibiotics. And if it goes to half the size, at least it looks like it's making good improvement, then you can go back to your journey.
All right. So not too bad. A bit of a bloody nuisance, but would rather get this sorted now than have tried to battle through it and end up having my leg chopped off with osteomyelitis or whatever it's called. I think it's my brother, Doug. He curses me every time I try to do anything with his ashes. Rightio, so it's 3rd of November. Just driving into Auckland. I'm on a compulsory few days rest with my bung leg. And I'm driving down with Julie and Shorty Williams, who I had turned up to stay one night with. 3 nights later, they're driving me down to Auckland. More than trail angels, these two. These people have been mates with my mum and dad and our family for over 40 years. So Julie, you guys had a pretty, I always used to amaze me, like, you lived a good life, didn't you, up north? Like, who led who astray? Did you lead my parents astray, or did they lead you astray?
Hardly. You can't lead a Hopkins astray, they are astray. No, I had a wonderful relationship, particularly with Co. She was like a grandmother to my children. She was just absolutely wonderful, and so was Bill when he was home. I used to go and see Co just about every night when the men were at sea. We kept each other company. We used to go to town together, and we still keep in contact even though we've been away from Hauhora for over 30 years.
Yeah. Well, Bill Hopkins has always been a bit of a legend as a crayfisherman, and Bill had arrived at Hauhora. He was going crayfishing off Cape Maria Van Diemen, Cape Reinga. I ended up fishing with him for quite a few trips, working as a deckhand with Bill.
From your point of view, was he a different bloke at sea than he was on land? I know as a son, when you fished with him, geez, he could piss me off when I was out at sea with him. But what about when you were, from your point of view?
Yep, quite different at sea. Bill was a very hard-working, very focused fisherman, very successful, and because of that, he worked extremely hard at sea. There wasn't a lot of rest, there wasn't a lot of playtime, but he certainly caught the fish, and we certainly made quite a bit of money working for him. He was a wee bit different, but he's always a decent person at sea. He wasn't terrible, it was just a different focus, I think.
both my sisters, Lindley and Wanda, and my brother Doug, you would go out on fishing trips as a kid. You'd go out for days at a time with Dad. They were amazing times because you didn't have to work, you're a kid. So I'd stand up on the bow. I remember I just used to be right up at the bow of the boat all the time, especially if we were going through some swells, and just love it. You're just smashing down into these swells, hanging on up there on the bow. It was such an adventure. It was wonderful. And I never ever recall getting seasick. The only time I ever got seasick was as an adult, and I didn't get actual sick, but I felt queasy. For some reason, just one time going up to Cape Reinga with Dad on a trip when I'd come up to visit when I was dancing, I think. And I went out on a trip, and for some reason I felt just a bit queasy one morning, but never ever remember being seasick as a kid. And like I say, it was just this massive adventure being out on the boat for a multi-day fishing trip with Dad and the crew. I would start working as a paid job. So I'd become a paid crew member, and that was cool because, you'd earn money, you work your ass off. Not that great working for your old man because, he had high expectations of you, and you got pissed off if he told you off or had too higher expectations. Because my old man, he was a hard taskmaster. The relationship when you're working with your father and brother out at sea was very different from when you're hanging out at home together. When you're at sea, when it's work, and time's is essential, you've got a certain period of time on what's called the slack water. So you've had your high tide, and then the tide's going out, and then the tide starts coming in. And that's essentially a 12-hour difference between the two high tides. And in the middle of that is the slack water, where it's getting close to low tide, and then the tide's turned and it's starting to come in. In that middle point is when the tide is running the slowest. And that's when you're running deep water crayfish, the packles, with these big heavy pots, the boys that show you where the pots are, that's when they come to the surface. When the tide's really running, you put big buoys on these lines, but you're running, you're doing 40 fathom, 50 fathom deep. So you're talking, 200 to 300 feet underwater, that the force of the ocean pulls those buoys underwater. So you've got a window of time which you can see the buoys, so you've got to get those pots up in that window of time. So everything has to become efficient. You run everything as efficiently as you can, and if you're not running it efficiently, you'd hear it from in the wheelhouse. Come on, get a bloody move along. Yeah, Christ, give it to me. I'll do it my bloody self. I remember one time having a screaming argument with my brother. We were down in the hold, my brother and I, this one time, and we had to clear out some blockage, and we're getting water over our top of our gumboots. I'd said, no, let's leave it. Let's wait till a bit more water drained. Oh, let's get in there. Let's bloody do it now. Get it over with. So we get down there, water's in the top of the gumboots, and it's just ugly. And him and I start having an argument, and we're screaming. I was waiting for him again. I'm being a niggler. I'm answering back, and I could never let the topic go without having the last word. And he's a big, powerful dude, my brother Doug. And so I'm sort of half expecting just this big fist to come and plant me fair square in the nose. And we're yelling away at each other. We're out at sea, the engines are going. So a lot of noise. Dad in the wheelhouse, he gets off the wheel, the steering wheel there, walks down, comes back to the hold at the back of the boat and puts his head down. You two, shut the hell up. It was, oh man. And then you get on with it. Because then you pull up to a bay, you anchor, you moor for the night, you cook dinner, you sit around, you're all buggered, you've been working your asses off all day, you're out at sea with the salt water on your face, you have a little bit of a wash, and then you sit down and have a meal together, and then you bunk up down in the forecastle, you're all in the same spot, sleeping together, and you get on with it. Pretty bloody amazing, really. So yeah, different relationship at sea to when you're on land. I've arrived back in Auckland. I've got to have an injury break. It's November the 3rd. Tomorrow is Freddie, my youngest grandson's birthday. He'll be 1. My oldest grandson is Charlie. He's 9. And Gracie is my granddaughter, and she's 4. So where did you think Papa's been, you guys, Gracie and Charlie?
I don't know.
Gracie, where's Papa been?
Hi.
Right.
The Te Araroa Trail.
Oh, nicely remembered. Do you know how far Papa's walked so far? Gracie?
No.
You're very good at balancing though, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Charlie, do you know how many kilometres Papa's walked so far?
No. I would say about... Papa fell down and he scraped his leg.
Yeah.
I would say about 100.
Try 380, about 384. I can't remember myself now. Just under 400 kilometres. I love you guys so much. It's so nice to see you. Thank you for coming and visiting me at my little hobbit hole with my leg in my injured state. I love you. Thank you for bringing me some goodies too.
You're welcome.
I really have no idea what time it is. It's Sunday morning, the 5th of November. I'm just wondering, is this thing getting any better? Every night I lie in bed, I end up having headaches. So just consuming water, but what that equates to as well is I have to get up and I have to go to the bathroom probably 4 or 5 times a night. I can hardly walk when I get up each time. In fact, I've been going to the bathroom sometimes. I do the scoot along on my backside. Just put my legs on the ground and use my hands to push myself along, lift myself, deposit myself, lift myself, deposit myself, lift myself, deposit myself. My friends Mike and Mari, they popped in, brought supplies. Today, a friend of mine, Terry, is going to pop around. My mate Joe. Man, it's pretty bloody humbling. I'm trying not to place, I'm not placing an expectation on the fact that I now must do this to pay them back. But it helps feed my desire to achieve my goal. Because these people just show such love and generosity, and all the people on Facebook, on the Facebook pages and everything, who express their support and their love. Thank you. We will do this bloody thing, however long it may take.
All right, and cut. This is a breaking news update. The healing process is underway. I've definitely had some improvement over the last 3 days. Initially, I thought, yay, maybe by yesterday, Thursday, I could get going. It is now Friday the 10th. A couple of days ago, I was saying, oh no, it seems like it's maybe going to be more like Saturday. But being as it is Friday, I know that tomorrow there's no way I can chuck an 18-kilo pack on my back and try to walk for 9 hours a day. So it's going to have to wait. Bloody, 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 bloody hell.
The Long Way Home is produced by Bruce Hopkins and Justin Gregory. The executive producer is Tim Watkin. The engineer is Jana Witter. Subscribe to every episode of The Long Way Home podcast at iTunes or at radionz.co.nz/series. And while you're there, please rate us. That way more people get to hear these stories. If you go to the Long Way Home webpage at rnz.co.nz, you'll find an interactive map that follows Bruce as he walks Te Araroa. Bruce is also on Twitter, at BruceHop, so get in touch if you've got tips, questions, or can offer him a bed, a meal, or just a hot shower along the way. You can also email him at thelongwayhome@radionz.co.nz. While you're waiting to hear what happens to Bruce's leg, head over to the podcast and series page on RNZ's website and check out our new true crime podcast series, The Lost. Every year, thousands of New Zealanders go missing. Most are found quickly, but some are never seen again. The Lost digs into some of these missing persons cases and talks to the families about their quest for answers and the hole left by those who've disappeared. In episode 2, we name the prime suspect in the disappearance of young mum Judith York and hear from the now grown-up daughter she left behind. And next time in The Long Way Home, hopefully Bruce Hopkins will be back on Te Araroa, New Zealand's trail, but there's plenty to talk about if he's not. The Long Way Home. Whenua, whakapapa, whānau. Follow us.